Oh, hi there. What's up, everyone? This is Xeven with Pitch and Prose. I just signed. I'm very happy to be part of the family, and I'm excited for my journey. And this is my little A to the Q&A. X, E, V, E, M? My first musical memory would have to be one that I could think of was when I was learning English as a toddler. English is not my first language. I come from Estonia and I speak Russian as my first. This was a song on one of the tapes that my father brought back from London, and the song was 10 little bears bouncing on the bed. Music that was playing at home when I was a kid was very varied. My mother had great taste in music, but she liked a lot of different artists from different genres. The most memorable and impactful artists for me would have to be Depeche Mode, Duran Duran, and Suzanne Vega. My first band or album obsession, I can't quite remember the name of the album, but the band was the infamous duo from Russia, the two straight girls that pretended to be queer, and their name was Tattoo. I enjoyed the combination of very melodic lyrical writing and influences of EDM and drum and bass, so I thought they were very creative, and to me it was great music. The first song I wrote was a song that I actually dedicated to my then best friend. I don't quite remember how it went, but it was the most fascinating experience because I had just gotten a cracked version of it was sort of a DAW or like something more like a garage band. It was called Tractor, and I was just using loops to make like a little track. Would I be comfortable sharing it? Perhaps as a gag. In my early days as a performer, if I think really far, at like Christmas holidays, there will be like little shows in malls, meant for kids with like a Santa. I've like stolen the microphone from Santa and just like proceeded to sing my favorite songs at the time. Speaking about today, the artists that have influenced my songwriting would have to be Banks and Jack White. What I really like about Banks' songwriting is that she really touches on the feminine struggles, being a woman and experiencing emotions in toxic relationships. I can relate to a lot of her lyrics. And then Jack White, I really love his songwriting because it's very metaphorical, and he has a way with words that makes his lyrics sound very powerful and yet mysterious, but you always understand the emotional background to what he's writing. As for the relationships influencing my musical career, which had just started, I'm a pandemic-born artist. I haven't released anything until the end of 2020. So I would say first and foremost, my husband has really supported me in my musical journey. But prior to that, it was probably the many failed attempts at working with other producers. There have been some very cliche problems with a few of them, and then the last producer I attempted to work with also had a different job. He's a great friend, he's a software developer, but eventually I just couldn't wait to rely on someone to make music for me that I can songwrite on top, so just took matters into my own hands. Besides that, my family supports me. I've had people who joined me on my video projects, so I'm very thankful to those people. It's very significant for me to be able to create compelling visuals. My aesthetic is kind of a fusion of things. Obviously comes from my musical influences. I'm a huge fan of The Prodigy, Portishead. I also love people like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. One of my favorite music video directors is Michel Gondry. He's done a lot of things for Royksop. He did a video for Mr. Oizo, for Kylie Minogue. As for the way that I choose to express myself, there's a lot of influence from 90s, 2000s fashion. There's a lot of influence from some of my favorite films. I love Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez films. I'm a huge fan of Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill's Planet Terror, From Dusk Till Dawn. I just think it's like very beautiful and cinematic, and the fashion, or the way the characters dress in the film is so personal and eclectic. As an artist, I prefer to combine both my music and the way I express myself visually, whether it's through video or on stage or any other elements in social media. I just see it as a whole picture for someone to experience an artist's work, and that's why I think it's important. I do not yet consider myself part of a local music or culture scene, simply because the past 2 years have been really difficult for me. I've been pretty much in exile out of the United States thanks to a visa issue and the pandemic and the travel bans, obviously. So I'm looking forward to becoming a part of a local music community. And I am looking into finding open mics or opportunities to gig. So yeah, hopefully that will start happening for me soon. My creative process, I think I could go like 3 different ways. One of them is if I have a very strong experience in the time or recently, I will normally start with poetry and then try to create the music around it. Or if I'm not that inspired, in terms of my own feelings, I will often start with opening up my DAW, laying down a bass line, maybe a drum, a basic melody, hum something on top, and then determine in what kind of rhythm I want to sing. Start with the first couple of lines in terms of what just comes to mind, and then build on that, and normally it anyways becomes something that is authentic and true to how I'm feeling. Then I would say the third way is sometimes I just build out a track. Like if I'm grooving in my DAW, and like I'll go pretty far with it, and eventually sometimes I'll also go back to my older lyrics, something that I left in my notes and it wasn't used, and I'll return to that, and then I'll try it on top of a melody. I'll try different things, and sometimes it becomes a track. I've been told my production is unique in the sense that I do really like to use Oriental instruments. I know that a track is finished when I know that a track is finished. There's no kind of hesitating or doubt about it. Sometimes I feel like I've been going at a track for way too long, but there's always a point where I'm like, okay, this is done. So I've done my best. I'm ready to release it. Let's go. A funny story happened to me once, and this was before my producing days. I was recording a track with another producer in a studio in Cape Town. Unfortunately, that track never got published simply because I didn't feel strongly about it. It was a little bit too EDM for me. At some point, I started, just making little jokes, singing in a Russian accent, and then the producer just told me like, hey, let's record this whole track in a Borat accent. And so not only was I singing in a Borat accent, but I was also being extra pitchy and deliberately off tune. So listening back to that recording was embarrassing and hilarious at the same time. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not too familiar with the music industry just yet. What I know is that the market is saturated thanks to technology, social media, streaming platforms. And I mean, it's both a good and a bad thing. It's harder to get your business seen and heard. And so, it's tough, but I think it's more power to the people. My biggest motivation to make music is simply that I really just love making it. I can disappear into my DAW for hours on end and not remember that I haven't had a single glass of water or a bite to eat. I just really love making music, and that's my biggest motivation. If I could tour with anyone, I would have to say it's probably Jack White. I think he's very kind of almost otherworldly. He's so enigmatic, but at the same time, he's a very approachable person, or the way he appears in the media is that he's very approachable. I appreciate the fact that he still upholsters furniture. Yeah, I would like to get to know him. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I'm Xeven, and I'm with Pitch and Prose. Check out my music, check out Pitch and Prose and all the other artists. They have great artists. And maybe I'll see you again soon.